Welcome back to Origami Snowman. My name's Matt. What I'm about to do is probably not a great idea. Just gonna throw that out there. And I'm pacing through my house. So if there's creaks and steps and bumps and things, that's all that is. So I had this thought this morning. It's still relatively early, a little earlier than I normally make my videos, but that's okay. I had the thought this morning. Having grown up in the church and having been kind of, I would say, not abused, but growing up, I was definitely not their favorite kid. You know, parents got divorced. We were not made of money. I was neurodivergent, which at the time, nobody knew what that meant. Just impulsive. A lot of bad ideas. I'm not gonna pace anymore. I'm gonna sit down because weird noises and it's cold and I can't cover up with a blanket if I'm walking around my house. Okay, so that creakiness, that's my chair, my big orange chair. It's my favorite thing. Okay, so I was always taught, we love others. That's what Jesus wants us to do. Go and be the light of the earth, right? This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, all that good stuff. So when I would get picked on and, poked at, just teased in a sort of what I thought a good-natured way, I thought, oh, well, this is ha ha ha, we're all friends here, right? It went on, that teasing, it went on and on and on and on and on and on. And it became kind of how people talked to me. They would tease me and they would poke fun at me. And it wasn't just like my peers. It was, everybody. Primarily adults, which is the problem. Our youth pastor used to, I thought he was just ha ha ha. But no, now as I get older and I look back, I think, wow, he really piled it on. He said to me one time, he said, boy, it was real hot out and I was wearing a pair of shorts. And, my good old Irish DNA does not tan. And he looked and he said, boy, if I had legs like those, I'd never wear shorts. I don't think I wore shorts again for 8 years. That one little comment, and I know he probably didn't mean anything by that. But that was about his most innocent remark to me. One time a friend of mine, my best friend, found a basketball just kind of rolling around in the parking lot. And he thought, oh, somebody left a basketball here. Somebody lost a basketball. They must not have wanted it. So in his 8th grade mind, he thought, oh, that's okay, cool, basketball. Now, this is a good kid, one of the best kids I ever knew. He never wanted to hurt anybody. He never wanted to do anything wrong. He was not a malicious kid. He just sometimes got caught up and missed the obvious answer and, mistakes were made. Okay. That basketball did belong to somebody and it was presumed that he had stolen it. I got yelled at for that. I wasn't even there when he found it. I got yelled at for that because it was known that we were friends. I don't know why I got brought in. And one of the few times that I actually stuck up for myself, I said, what are you talking about? I wasn't even there. And there was a pause, and the adult who was yelling at me said, well, if you were, you probably would have done it anyway. What? What in the world? That is the most absurd thing. And I'm telling you, that stuff hurts, right? If adults in your church, if the adult religious leaders in your church are bullying you, are making other people bully you, if they are unjustly blaming you for someone else's innocent mistakes, I'm pretty sure I got yelled at more harshly than my friend did. If that's happening to someone who grew up, I mean, I grew up literally we went to that specific church from the time I was 3 until I was 17, and I'd had enough. I spent 14 very formative years in that church. I knew these people, their kids had babysat me. They had invited our family over for dinner before the divorce. After the divorce, not so many invites. This was, this was my experience with the church. And I'm a Christian. Can you imagine how they treat everyone else? Yes, you can, because it's pretty well documented. So I was thinking about this morning. Why is the modern church so unkind? And when did it start? I'm not doing well with this whole. This is one of those pay attention, but I'm too into it. When did it all start? When did Christians stop being kind? I'm pretty sure they were still pretty legalistic and rude back in like the 50s and the 60s. I'm pretty sure they were still being legalistic and rude in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. I'm pretty sure, if you go back far enough, there was a point where Christians in America were burning people, for different religious practices. Let's go back even further and look at the Crusades or like the Spanish Inquisition, or people throughout history have been doing things in the name of Christ that are not okay. This is not a new thing. This is not a modern church problem. This is a human problem. Even in the earliest days of the church, there were people taking advantage of the community and the love and the trust built up by the church. People, trying to like scam other people and say, oh, here, donate this money and we're going to give it to the church. But there was no donation, right? So this has been a human problem. Now, you look at a corporation, like right now, Danaher is a big, a lot of spotlight on Danaher because they have the means to make life so much better for literally millions of people who suffer from tuberculosis. And, just testing for tuberculosis is kind of an expensive burden for third world countries. And Danaher has the power to make it so much easier. However, in the name of their shareholders, they're not doing this. They're not making these tests more affordable because they have a responsibility to their shareholders. That's still, it comes down to money, right? It's like you are a pharmaceutical company. You're trying to make the world a healthier, better place for people, but you're not making it a healthier, better place for everyone, and that's a problem, right? But they do have a responsibility to make a certain profit for their shareholders. It does seem kind of hypocritical, but nobody is saying, medicine is bad because of this company that is not doing its absolute best. This company that has chosen to, support their shareholders rather than go the fully altruistic, philanthropic route, instead of throwing away all of their profit and, putting a massive dent in this huge problem, they have chosen to make money. How dare they, the devils? We still buy medicine, right? But some people, when they are faced with this idea of like, let's love others, and they get hurt by the church, they're like, I want nothing more to do with that. That product is no, I don't want any Jesus in my life because you hurt me. So that is an interesting thing. A corporation can be, some would say, outright villainous, and we're still going to buy their product. But a representative of at its bare bones, bare minimum, let's take all questions out of it. Let's take all arguments out of it. At its absolute bare bones, Christianity is a philosophical movement, okay? Should we love others? Is that what's best for humanity? Okay. How can loving others be a bad thing? Okay. But some people see it and they're like, no, I'm sorry, you've hurt me, and I'm closing off my heart. I'm gonna block it off, right? If you look at, what our government, some people who have recently been in the White House have said and done and have gotten the backing after saying and doing these things of the church, or rather people who claim to represent the church, it seems awfully strange because those two groups, they don't align, right? It blows my mind. From inside the church, I'm seeing this, and I'm shocked, absolutely blown away by the amount of support people have given certain people in the name of Jesus. And it blows my mind. But they still get the support. Okay, I'm losing track here. If you look back throughout history, the church has done some awful, awful things. So it's not a new thing. And it's not just a church thing. It's not just Christians doing these things. However, Christians, we are, it's more reprehensible when we do it. And there's one reason. When a corporation hurts people, they can say, look, we're trying to make a profit. That is why we exist. Okay? And they can be cold, and they can be heartless, and they can be soulless, and we will still buy their product. But Christians, we have said our whole goal is to love Jesus and love others, right? And we don't do that. We actively don't do that. We try to get others hurt. We say God hates this marginalized group, so let's abuse them. And it's awful. It's the most hypocritical, disgusting thing. It'd be like a Care Bear, gnawing your child's face off. It's disgusting, and it's upsetting, and it's not like representative of the source material. It's so aggravating to watch, people who claim, oh yes, I believe in this. I fully represent, my words and actions and desires are fully aligned with Jesus. And then they go and say, I'm sorry. You don't get to choose a new name. You don't get to, choose a different pronoun. You shouldn't live in this neighborhood. You should have worked harder and not done drugs. I'm not going to support this program that actually helps you. You should have made different decisions. You shouldn't have worn that dress. You shouldn't have been at that party. You drank alcohol, and so you invited that kind of behavior. These are not people who understand what Jesus was asking us to do. They understand the words. They know what love means, but they've never actually witnessed genuine, like, merciful, limitless love because they've never needed it. These are people who live in a world that was made for them. You know, those little Fisher Price little people. You know, they have the round-bodied people, and the head is a ball, and like the little dollhouse. Every chair is cut out perfectly for them. All the beds are just perfectly the right size. Everything in that world was made for those people. People made in that exact shape, in those dimensions. You know, they have everything they need. Everything is perfect for them. So many Christians live in that world where everything was made perfect for them, and they don't understand why these square-bodied people can't sit in their chair. They just don't get it. They don't see it. And instead of saying, what if we made some square chairs for these people? They say, no, sorry. No, I guess you don't get to sit down. Sorry. And they call that love. They think, well, how do I love a person who's had an abortion? I can't. So let's make abortion illegal. Instead of focusing on what about the people who have to have an abortion, who don't want to, but for medical reasons or because they were victims of assault, or, what if instead of trying to help the people, they're like, let's make them more lovable so that, I don't have to think about the bad thing that they did that I don't like. And then when they see a young mother walking through the grocery store, they're like, ugh, oh, geez, look at this kid. Whoa, they don't want to help anybody ever because they have to acknowledge what they consider something ugly. And that just doesn't line up with their Fisher-Price world. And that's not just Christians, you guys. That's everybody. But Christians, it's so much more reprehensible because we say we're not doing it. Because we say that's not the right way to be. Because we say we're supposed to do better, and then we don't. And it's so annoying. And I think that's why so many people, even people who, like me, grew up in the church, have such a huge problem with the church. I tell you, like Christian music, you turn on the radio and listen to Christian music, it's so overproduced. It's so smiley happy. Oh, isn't it great? Don't you have nice feelings? Isn't everything only wonderful? No, it's not only wonderful. The world is a mess, and we help to make it that way. Can we please do better? And if you listen between the songs, seriously, if you've never listened to Christian radio, turn it on sometime and just listen to the little messages between songs. It's, hey friends, isn't it just a beautiful day? This is God's day. God wants you to go out, and he wants you... Shut up. Like that saccharine, sickly, unrelatable, fake voice, that fake smile, that, it's all teeth, and there are a lot of fangs in there, and it feels like the plastic church that I grew up in, where those people hurt me because, it just seemed like the thing to do. It seemed like he needed to be hurt. Oh, and I'm a Christian. I see the good. I see the merit. And I can't imagine for those of you who don't see the merit, who never grew up in the church, who have still managed to get yourselves abused by the church, because boy, oh boy, we're real good at hurting others. We're so good at it. We will go out of our way to make sure people know that God is not happy with them. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. It's a sad, it's so sad. Like, we are hurting our brand. We are hurting our product. We're like, here, this is God's love. And nobody wants it because we're not doing it right. If you're like, hey, like if you set out like a mousetrap and you say, you want some cheese? There's some cheese. Go get the cheese. And people reach and they get hurt by the mousetrap. They're not going to want cheese anymore. it's it's a pretty basic psychological approach. It's a deterrent more than it's an attractive proper. I think the problem that the church has right now is that we're no different than a corporation, except the corporations at least are looking out for their shareholders. So many times the church isn't even interested in helping its own. There's so many people preaching the prosper gospel. If you're successful, that's because God smiled on you. If you're not successful, if you're poor, that means you did something wrong. If you go back and like look at the story of Job, there's some problems there, but whatever. If you look at the story of Job, he was, according to the Bible, blameless. Yet all of this misfortune happened, and all of his friends were like, "What did you do? You must have made God angry," right? And they wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't hear him. They were convinced that he had done something wrong to earn the wrath of God. And we read that story and we tell our kids, no, he did nothing wrong. But then when they get older, we say, oh, yeah, bills are stacking up. You lost your job. Well, maybe look at your life and see what you can improve, see what you did wrong. Are you reading your Bible enough? Are you praying enough? Did you listen to Christian music? Oh, you were listening to classic rock? Well, I don't know. I'm just saying it might be something to consider. No, I'm telling you, we just are bad at it. We tell the story of Jonah and how obedient he was eventually, right? But we stop telling the story when we get to the part where Jonah was furious that God actually kept his word to the Ninevites and didn't destroy them. We don't like the ugly parts. We don't like the parts of the Bible that make us look at ourselves and say, am I doing that? Am I like when when a social program that helps, drug addicts gets shut down, do I secretly go, hey, get rid of those drug addicts. I don't want them in my town. Is that what we're doing deep down inside? We don't like the Bible stories that are basically mirroring our own behavior. So we change them. We're hypocrites. All people are. But somehow it hurts worse coming from the church. I don't know. So I get it. Like, there are atheists who never, ever dealt with the church because they're like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. It seems like a fairy tale. I'm too old for that. And they move on. And then there are atheists who are like, oh, yeah, I grew up in the church. And there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of holes in what they're preaching. And I'm not drinking their Kool-Aid anymore. So, and they're angry with the church. And they make, social media accounts where literally their entire personality is, here is what's wrong with the church. And I will tell you what, I identify so much more with those guys than I do with anybody who's like, isn't Jesus wonderful? He is. But there is a lot of ugliness in the Christian story, and you're ignoring it all for the sunshines and the rainbows. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, not the rainbows, because that's the gays. Oh, I hate so much about, this image that we have cultivated for ourselves. It's so bad. We're not drawing in anyone but the people we want. And I wonder, honestly, if that was not part of the plan. If we keep it middle class, if we keep it white, if we keep it straight, then we don't have to deal with any awkwardness. We never have to acknowledge that maybe America made some poor choices on behalf of some marginalized people. And how, I'm telling you, oh my, I have so many things to say that I'm so not qualified to talk about, but just that irk me. Like when we see evangelical patriotism, that whole idea of God and country. What are you talking about? When did country ever come into it? You know, like there was a guy in our neighborhood who had a big sign in his yard for a while. It said, God, guns, and Trump. Are are those your interests? Is that your Tinder profile? Like, now to this guy's credit, two things. One, they were in that order: God, guns, and Trump. And his second point of credit that I'll give him was on January 7th, that sign was not in his yard. So, you know, he saw what happened and he understood and he didn't like it, so he took it down. I think that the church has lost sight of what we're supposed to be doing, and we've forgotten it's about people. It's not about policy. You know, I just in the Old Testament there were originally like 600 laws, very very specific Levitical laws, Deuteronomical laws. You know how to live your life. These are the people. At one point, eunuchs were not allowed to be part of the assembly of God. They were not allowed to be part of the church. Yet in the New Testament, Philip goes and he speaks with an Ethiopian eunuch who is trying to understand the gospel. Well, not the gospel because it hadn't been written yet, but he's trying to understand the Bible. And Philip is like, well, I can explain it if you like. And he ended up explaining, what the Old Testament meant by Messiah and explaining that Jesus fulfilled that role. And he baptized the eunuch and the eunuch became a Christian. Well, I'm sorry. I thought, according to Deuteronomical law, that he wasn't allowed. And so basically, like Christ was like, the rules are messing you all up. Let's get rid of them. So in the Old Testament, we had these like 600 or 700, I don't even know, 600 laws, and that was too hard. The people couldn't do it. So Jesus was like, listen, I'm gonna clean things up for you. I'm gonna give you two laws, two rules to follow. Love God and love people. And we still can't do it. I'm sorry for my rant. I literally had a 30-second thought while I was getting dressed this morning, and I decided to skip breakfast and sit down and be angry. Anyway, I adore you guys. You guys are, I know my videos have been getting repetitive and getting a little, typical, but I appreciate you guys watching, and thank you for subscribing and liking my videos. It means a lot to me. Your comments are awesome. I love reading your comments. I do respond to every single one. So thank you. And I apologize if I said some things that are upsetting or said some things you don't agree with. Maybe I'm off on a couple things, but honestly, I think we all know a lot of what I said is very accurate for a lot of people. It's very relevant for people. Some people. Maybe not you, but it is for a lot of people. Anyway, thanks for watching. Love you guys, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.